Oh, this is Daniel Posney, and this is Shifting Perspectives. And we're going to spend about 10 or 15 minutes, not very long time, on this topic about replenishing the overworked soul. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because uh, I just had a session with somebody about this and just kind of brought up what normally people think about when you think about the topic replenishing my overworked soul, or replenishing my overwhelm. And he had said something that was sort of in the line of, I want to come away with some tools that help me deal with my overwhelm. And that always kind of pokes something at me that says, but where does that end? When we have these tools to deal with the overwhelm, where does that ever change unless we get lucky and don't have any overwhelm anymore? But what I've seen after seeing a lot of people that are have a lot of overwhelm and um, overwork in their life, like I had in the past, there's a reason for it. But we all come across like it's just happening to me, and I've just got to deal with it. And I am a Type A personality, and so I just do the best I can. I got to do better at taking a break, and I got to do better at that. And that's kind of what I hear a lot from people. And they're looking for people like me that say, okay, here's what you need to do. You need to give yourself a bath once a week, hot bath with some Epsom salts, and all those kinds of things are great. And I want to give you some of those for a Band-Aid or a patch. But what I want to go to eventually is an upgrade. So I'll give you the patch first. So all these ones I'm sure you've heard before, and you're kind of like, yeah, I know I need to do these. So I'm going to tell you these things, but you know that you haven't been doing enough of those, or maybe there's a couple new ideas that you'll say that you're going to try more of that. But really the fix is going into the upgrade. So some of the things that I do to replenish my overworked soul, so I don't overwork myself too much anymore. I'm really pretty strong on my boundaries of self and what I'm able to do, what I'm not able to do. But when I do feel overworked, I do put it on my calendar, because if it's not on my calendar will get filled up. And especially now that I'm using this tool called Calendly, CALENDLY.com. It's a great tool, and I've got great success with it. But the only problem is that if I mess up and I leave an open gap in there in the calendar when I'm on my way back down from Flagstaff, or I'm thinking that I'm going to do some extra work in that time for myself or for the house, that could get filled up, and then all of a sudden I've got a session that I didn't really want to schedule that time for. So I really need to schedule my playtime, my relaxing time, my travel time. And I know it's kind of like a little bit maybe OCD on that, but it's the way that I need to do it so that I don't get blocked up with stuff. The way that I replenish my soul is I got to get out on the land. And I know that there's a lot of people that are from New York and in the city and stuff like that, or maybe that's just not conducive to that. But there's got to be a way for you to get out of the bustle of the world and out of the traffic and all that, and to get out under a tree. Just get under a tree, lean your back up against a tree, lay in the grass, watch the clouds, something to connect yourself with nature. I live in Sedona, actually just moved to a town called Cornville. So I actually moved myself out of the hustle and bustle of Sedona, and it is pretty hustle and bustle with so many visitors. So now we're out in the real country, and that's really been beneficial. But I love this very divine place that I can get a acai bowl, or if I go to local juicery and I get a juice or a smoothie, that really fills me up. My brain wants a double cheeseburger with chili and a couple of margaritas, but that's not really going to replenish me. That's actually going to bring me my energy down, and my stomach's going to have to work with that, and then I'm not clear. But so I need to be clear on if I'm really replenishing myself or feeding my brain and my old patterns. So the other things that I like doing, I like jumping in the creek, getting out in the water, and jumping in the cold water just kind of it resets my systems. And if you look into someone like Wim Hof or cold baths and stuff like that, that really has a way of resetting your nervous system and activating your parasympathetic system. So those kind of things are just ways that I replenish myself. I like reading a book. I like watching a really good movie, one that's not violence. Although I will watch that too, and I'll know that it's not doing anything for me. But when I want to replenish myself, I don't watch violent movies or even action adventure movies, because it kind of really overactivates and overstimulates my nervous system. So I need something that's kind of like a comedy or a nice love story, or maybe even a documentary that I can just relax into. So those are some things for me that I like to replenish myself. Let's see. So I think you probably know what replenishes you, and you probably know what you may have been doing in the past that you gave yourself permission to do, but it doesn't really replenish you. And I just had this memory. I just went down to Yucca Valley to help out with this retreat, and it was awesome. And one of the things that I did with my wife, Valerie, is we went to the local hot springs. And while we were there, we got a massage. And I got this big guy, this big African-American guy. He's like 350 pounds. And I was like, yes, I'm going to get a good massage. And that guy laid into me, and just, that's one of the things that I do is massage, chiropractor, acupuncture. And because I'm a vet, I get some of those things for free. Actually, no, I guess I did pay for it for years, but I am taking advantage of those things. And even though it's a drive up the Flagstaff about 45 minutes, I really put that on my calendar and I say, I'm doing this for myself. And I give them a nice tip. And I really look forward to that. But back to this guy, he really worked me like a loaf of bread. And he just, he put all of his weight into my body, and he cracked me, he moved me. I'm crying, not from pain, but from emotions. By the end of it, I was telling him, I love you, man, because he just let go of so much emotion in me. But at the end of the massage, he goes, you really need to take care of yourself. And what did he say? He said, whether that means take a toke, take a smoke, or take a shot. And I appreciate his sentiment to allow me, give myself permission to take a shot, take a hit, or take a smoke, or whatever he said. But those things don't really replenish me. It's just that, it's more into like giving myself permission to do something. Like I've worked my ass off, and this is something that I'm giving myself. But in reality, it's only that permission piece that serves me, that makes me feel good, makes my mind feel good, but it doesn't really make my body feel good. So I just want to be clear about those things, that we're doing something to replenish, not just to take advantage of the situation, which I've done lots of. All right, so now I want to get into the part where we look at the fix or the upgrade, instead of just patching the symptom, but we want to go right into the cause. And I want to say, first of all, I want to add in here something. I want to add in compassionate understanding. That I know that it can be very overwhelming to think that you need to do all these things, and that you have all these responsibilities and all these obligations. I completely understand that, and I've lived in that. And where does it end? So it's a hard place to be, and it's a hard place to be to feel like you're stuck in that, and there's nowhere to turn, and there's no way that it's ever going to change for you. But it does. It really does change, but you've got to start living your life in a little bit different way. And what I mean by that is more like really taking radical responsibility. And I want to say this with as much love and compassion, but sincerity and honesty, of radical responsibility for what you see in your life. And there's been lots of research on this, and psychology, metaphysical research, all these things that have said that there are certain personality types. And one of the guys that I was reading about is Dr. Gabor Mate, where he describes three different types, A, B, and C. And the A type is your A type personality that is go-getter and do, and just super busy entrepreneur maybe. And they're usually people that are in the same energy or the same frequency of a potential of a heart problem or a stroke or something that really takes them down, that causes them to completely stop what they're doing. And then you've got the C-type personalities that are more pleasing for other people and not really taking care of themselves. And both the A and the C all store the stress somehow. So the C-type personalities that are always doing for other people, not for themselves, they're the ones that are in the same frequency for the potential of cancers and MS and autoimmune and that kind of stuff. So the B type, of course, you can guess that's just the one that's more balanced in what they do and how they're being and how they release their stress. Because as I'm sure you know, stress and that kind of thing is kind of that gives the potential for disease. So the question becomes, why is it that I attracted a life or a job or a career or a relationship that is stressing me out, that is chaotic? And 99% of the time when I talk to someone about this, there is chaos in their childhood, usually between them and their parents, but also could be with the siblings, but it's mostly between the parents. The parents aren't there. They're latchkey kids, meaning they got to take care of themselves all the time. Maybe the father's an alcoholic or abusive, or the mother is always bad mouthing the daughter. All those kind of things lead to this chaotic environment. And it's an interesting thing that the mind starts to say, this must be love because that's all I know. And so it gets used to that, and it gets, I don't know if comfortable is the right way, but it just gets used to it. I'm having a hard time finding the right word, but it's a known thing. And so the mind knows how to work with this, and it develops a coping mechanisms for this, and it just kind of says, I'm comfortable with that, or I know this, and it starts to attract through its own thinking and believing and actions to create something that feels like that. So why does that happen? It just happens because it's a normal environment that the person knows from childhood. And like it might be something like this, where the person goes for what's it called when you look for a job? Haven't done it for a long time. Person is looking for a job, and the employer says, well, it's a tough job though, and there's a lot of stress involved, and you got deadlines and all these things. And that person goes, that job is for me. I can do that job. But someone that really knows themselves and knows what they need in their life, they say, you know what? I think I'm going to say no to that job because it does not sound fun. But the other person that knows that chaos in their life, they know how to handle that. And it's just a normal thing for them. So they'll go into that, and it'll become more and more stressful because stress just builds up on itself. And they'll say, gosh, why is there so much stress in my life? It's just a normal thing that it just kind of, the pieces fit together. So now the person finds himself in a place that goes, I've got some illnesses going on, I've got some heart condition, and get stressed out with my wife, and I'm attracting clients that are stressing me out. But I want to go back to this metaphor of the room. That person is in the room of stress and worry and anxiety and chaos, and they live their life from this room and the frequency of that room. And what they need to do is to realize that original thing was not developed. The original feeling of chaos and nervousness and anxiety was not created from the adult life, and it was created from the childhood. And once you kind of determine that, it's from the childhood and it's not normal, this is not love. I want to say that really strong. This is not love. This is just a chaotic, even most times an unhealthy relationship or unhealthy environment. So a person just could realize that that's where it came from. It's not coming from here. It's just been kind of perpetuated. And they go, okay, wow, wonder what it must be like to be with no chaos, with no stress. Is that even possible? And there's this thought, I know I've had this thought, That's not real. That cannot be real. And you got to be some monk on the top of some mountain, something that is not possible. Only, people on the fringe live that kind of life. But I can say that for me, that's the kind of life that I live now. But because I made a determination to take radical responsibility. So the next step is, what do I do with this? And how do I change this? Well, the biggest part is noticing where it came from. That's the biggest part. The next part is to start making changes in your life that are good for you, that are exciting for you, that actually make you happy. Like I was talking with this guy. Now, this is a different way of looking at something, so I want to prepare you. We're working with this guy, and he has a company, and he's got lots of clients that are very forceful with him and very argumentative, and they argue with him, and he says, I need to argue back with them or else they don't respect me. And so he's got this relationship that they get into this argument and the stress, and they need this, and what he's doing isn't right, and then he knows he's right, so he argues back with them, and he says then they back down. But here's what can happen when he starts to shift himself of not by default being into an environment that is stressful and anxiety and chaos that he's used to, that he starts to make changes in his life. What will happen is that he's not going to fix the problem from the room that he's in. He's going to move to another room. What I mean by that, he's going to move to another reality that the clients that are a pain in the ass are going to leave the agreement. And then he'll get new clients come in, and they'll say, you know what, we love the work that you do, but most of all, more than the work that you do, which is awesome, is your presence and your countenance and the love that we feel from you. We just want to be around you. And don't think that's so weird, because I've heard that. When I started to make my changes in my life, I started to, instead of going from a life of overwhelm and stress about trying to get the products, getting all the stuff done, I started to change myself. And I realized that what was really happening is that people were enjoying the energy that I was bringing, and they enjoyed the product or the service that I was providing, but more the whole package. And that's when you start to attract more in tune, in alignment clients, and your abundance starts to go through the roof. Whereas before it was a struggle, and that whole struggle it's like a big part of the overwhelm, that you feel like I need to do all this stuff, and I need to really push, and I need to argue for what I need. But when you shift from the inside, you actually leave that reality and you move to another one. So I want to make sure that it's clear what I'm saying here. You're not fixing the reality that you're in by bringing in new tools and new awareness and new concepts. You're not in the reality anymore when you shift from the inside. So what shows up is something completely different. And this is something that I'm experiencing right now as I'm living in my new house in a place that is a lot less stressed than where I lived before. And a lot of other things are happening that are all in alignment with that, because, both my wife and I have been working from the inside. And it's just amazing to watch what happens, is that this thing that you thought could never change now is completely changed. How did that happen? It's not because the person changed in the reality that you were in. If you went to the reality where that person showed up differently. I know that's kind of a weird concept, but sit with that one and meditate on that one, that you're always in a different reality. This reality, that reality, this reality, that reality. And in each of these realities, people are showing up differently to you. So you're never like needing, and like that guy, like the massage therapist, you're never like needing and pushing and pulling this one reality. Every time you make a choice to go into this other reality. So I think that's all I got. I think we're out of time. Thank you for listening, watching. I love you. Thank you. Bless you. And we'll see you next time.